Hello and welcome to the Tshepishow, pun absolutely intended, the podcast where we talk about the things that nobody wants to talk about, the uncomfortable truths of life, all for the sake of growth and self-actualization, bettering your human interactions, one podcast at a time. It's going to be uncomfortable, but you will grow. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please welcome your host, Tshepishow Podcast.
Hello guys, welcome again to the third episode of the Tshepishow. I'm so excited, we're still doing it. Thank you so much for the awesome feedback. For the other two, if you haven't watched it, I'll link it down below. Okay, so in today's episode, we're going to be talking about being an atheist. So I've asked one of my good friends, Mr. Tumelo Chavalala, to join me. So please give him a warm welcome. Hey Tumelo.
Hey Tepi, what's up?
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining me, dude.
No stress.
You can speak, but this is not a Zoom call. This is where you can be yourself. Be yourself to me. Be relaxed. That's a Zoom call.
Alright, no stress. I'm just here ready to rumble,
All right. No.
Fly like a butterfly, sting like a bee,
That's what I'm talking about. So guys, it took us a good hour to sort out the stuff. Guys, this was a whole mission, but we finally got it right. I was just it's the devil. What the hell? We want to talk about next thing, my mic's not working. I can't find my earphones. Things are just not connecting. Oh, but anyways, I'm so glad that we're over that. So Tumelo, Who is Tumelo Chawalan? Tell me about Tumelo, the child of God, or the atheist.
Oh, Tumelo, the child of God. That is one hell of a story. Well, basically, my mom's a Christian, and I was raised by my mom as a single parent, and she raised me Christian, going to church and stuff, right? But since a very early age, I began rebelling, in primary school. I started my rebellion from Christianity because there are certain questions that I was starting to have, and the atheist viewpoint sounded very convincing because it tried to root itself purely on just science, on purely just science, and that's it. And that started appealing to me, being in school and stuff and enjoying all the benefits of technology that I'm beginning to do now. Technology is in my face. It's here. I can see it. I can use it. It's useful to me and it makes me happy type situation, So that's how I began starting to see this and encountering.
So tell me
here. Yeah.
I just wanted to know, so when you said that there were certain things that started to cause you to ask questions, would you mind giving examples? What were some of those things that prodded you to look into the atheism world?
Well, it was the whole concept of, it does center around God himself, it was the whole question around him. I was okay, so you're telling me that there is a creator out there who made everything and is in control of everything right now. And it's that I had a huge issue with because of the whole question that atheists throwing around of, if God exists, why hasn't he made himself known to us? Why doesn't he just reveal himself? Is he shy? It's when I heard that, I was to me at the time, it was why hasn't he shown himself, or just announce himself with a big voice globally, hey guys, I'm here, or something, that kind of question was, I believe, the first time it started chipping away at my faith and stuff, and other questions such as, if God exists and he's a good God, then why is there so much suffering in the world? Why is there such bad thing? Yeah, why are there such bad people going around living their life, escaping the hands of the law, and those type of questions.
No, I'm really glad that you mentioned those two things, because those are usually the triggers that get people to lose their salvation, especially if maybe they were praying for maybe their mom had cancer or something like that, and they kept praying for them to get healed, and then mom doesn't get healed, ends up dying, and then it's your faith so much just dies with your mom, So now that you're a Christian, have you found the answers to those two questions that...
Oh my word, I found those answers so easily. I have found those answers so easily now. And I cannot begin to describe to you guys that like it all centers for me around the concept of free will. The concept of free will being that, and also God not wanting to force himself on you.
And
You know,
people,
he's somebody that you have to go seek out. It's like there's a Bible verse that says, "Seek and ye shall find," which I have come to be one of the most true things in life that you can encounter, especially in this new digital age where information is like a fingertip away, you know. And the fundamental question as well of why is there suffering around in this world, if you'll allow me to elaborate on that, because I feel like I've had a few years now to get my faith in order. So if I say it, I can't oversimplify it, because people watching this who are atheists are going to be like, nah, bruh. So I have to like explain it in detail. It's like
explain.
this.
Go away.
In the beginning, where Adam and Eve sinned, we find out that the penalty for sin is death. So if every single time a human being committed sin and they would die, humanity would have ceased to exist from the very beginning, bruh. From the very first two human beings that existed. But because God loves us, he gave us free will, and that free will allowed or opened the possibility for sin to happen, which ultimately we should be punished with death for, happened. You know, he gave us a way of being able to continue to live. So when you look at it from that perspective, and also from Cain, after Cain murdered his brother Abel, the penalty for that sin was supposed to be death for him as well. But God, loving us so much, still allowed us to be able to exist even afterwards. So when you see things like disobeying God and committing murder, those murder being the main thing, if I could just stick to that, taking place, and God being able to forgive us for that, it's like it leads to a case where every single human being, the billions of us on planet Earth now, looking at ourselves and realizing, bruh, I've committed sin, and I've committed sin so many times. I've lied, I've lusted after other people, I've hurt other people in certain ways, you know.
Yeah.
We should all be dead, you know. So if I, as an atheist, I'm looking at the situation and saying, hey, yo, guys, why does God allow this suffering in the world to take place? I have to look inwards first and say, oh, wait, I am also the cause of the suffering in this world. So I shouldn't just be looking at other people out here that are doing bad things and then wishing death upon them, or saying they should not be around, or why are they not suffering, when in the meantime, I am also contributing to this exact same atmosphere that is taking place in the world right now. I'm part of the problem. So I should be dead as well. And you know, there are other people out there who I think would look at it and say, yeah, bro, I should be dead. I don't even ask to be alive or whatever, you know. But then all that I've seen now is necessary is a consistent trail of thought. You cannot cherry pick from both sides, like what is supposed to take place. It's either we all die or we all live. But if we all live, we acknowledge that we sin and we are sinners, and we are the reason that the world is messed up right now. When God created everything, he created everything in perfection. Nature as we see it now and as we love to enjoy it now, the lovely skies, the sunset, the stars, every single thing God made, he made awesome, he made perfect. And we are the cause of sin coming into this world, and all the pain and suffering now is not God.
That is happening. I think that was such a beautiful explanation, and like that's why I needed you here, because only a former atheist could properly explain that to us. So is it safe to say that atheism is like rooted in hypocrisy?
Oh,
And I think
definitely.
so. First of all, to be an atheist, you need God to exist to define your atheism. Because if God's not real, you don't need to have an anti-God perspective. But you guys need God to define your atheism. And then secondly, the atheist looks at the sin of others and the suffering in the world, and they fail to look at their own contribution, their own sin contribution. And the thing is, it doesn't matter. Like whether you think your sin is small, it's affecting somebody somehow, you know? So is it safe to say that atheism is actually low-key? Not even low-key, I think
Not even
high-key in hypocrisy.
No, definitely in hypocrisy, and also I would say inconsistency as well. Because as an atheist as well, there was a fundamental problem or fundamental question I had not even considered before. Because as an atheist and claiming to only be interested in the field of science dictating everything within me. I realized later on that science may rule or reign supreme in the physical world that we can see right now. But when it comes to the world of values, science cannot tell us anything about that. Values are something where you have to look away from science in order to determine what is this. And there are only two possible answers to values. It's one, values are whatever are a made up thing. Values are a made up thing, and there is no such thing as right and wrong, good or evil. Because science cannot tell you that there's something called good and evil. Those are all philosophical, if I can put it, perspectives on things. And Einstein also once said the problem with mathematicians and scientists is that they're such poor philosophers. And it's a very deep statement when I look back on it now. And secondly, if there are now morals or values and good and evil, if those things do exist, then who is the ultimate authority on those things? Who says it's right and wrong to kill or not kill, rape or not rape, steal or not steal? Who is the ultimate authority on that? Because science, that's a question that it fundamentally cannot answer. And I don't think any atheist in the world would look or listen to that viewpoint of values and think to themselves, values don't really matter. Hey, it doesn't really matter whether values are there or not, because atheists, no matter who they are, will always tell you, I don't know why I can't point to a specific moral authority who says it's right or wrong to kill, but it just feels wrong when I see somebody killing, or it just feels wrong. And that feeling now, that thing, that instinct inside you that tells you it's wrong to kill or whatever, is where the question of higher beings or a higher being existing comes into the picture.
I love so much that you said that, because again, it just shows us that even to define good and bad, you need God. Because God is so it's like everything you say, I don't know, maybe when I was younger, I wasn't able to fully engage atheists, or maybe it just got heated too quickly. But and from what I'm hearing, it's everything you need to believe, it's you need God. You need the goodness of God in order to define evil in the world. You need, so even the world, our moralistic views, how we see things, our definition of right and wrong, it comes from God. Yes, granted, it has changed over the centuries, and maybe it's been watered down, and maybe other people, human rules have slipped in there and whatever. So I really think that was a really good point that you mentioned. So I just want to know here, what do you wish someone would have told you as an atheist, or what do you wish a Christian would have said to you?
That is a fantastic question. There are several things I wish they would have told me, but the thing is, my main problem when I was an atheist was pride, bruh. It was pride. My main issue was that
you know who else had an issue of pride?
Don't remind me.
Just say.
Yeah, it's as an atheist, one, I wish somebody would have came at me from this perspective here, because I was very science-based, very science-rooted. So I wish somebody would have come at me with the whole values or moralistic arguments, rather than try and take me on from the science point of view, because science back then, all the way back then, by the way, were certain things that that science had not caught up to yet, that the Bible had told us were real things, So back then, by the way, sorry, I just want to add a third point as well. Atheists seem to love using scientific theories a lot to disprove Christianity or religions, which they say are theories. And then when I look at them, I'm always like, bruh, you cannot use theories to disprove theories. That's not how it works. Then you're using a belief system to disprove another belief system. You have to come with facts here. When you come with evolution, remember, evolution is a theory. There is a reason it is still a theory in 2020 as we sit right now, and not a fact. It's because there are very fundamental things that are wrong with that principle, or with that. With that the scientific community, no matter how atheist they are like, nah, bro, we cannot accept this as fact yet, nor do I believe we ever will. But you know what I mean? That's another problem that they have, is that how it goes back to the hypocrisy thing, I guess. So it's not really another point, but it's just an addition to the whole hypocrisy thing of them always trying to say, oh no, we're very science-based, bro, we're very factually based, and then you use theories this whole time to come at people of faith. It's like, come on.
Yeah. That's a bit messed up. You were saying something. Did you finish?
No, I didn't finish my point. Sorry about that. To go back to what do I wish people would have told me as an atheist, it's coming at me from the whole moralistic point of view. Things that are beyond the realm of science to explain. I believe that those things are the powerful things that end up like clicking at you the most. Because we tend to think science can do everything and it reigns supreme over all, but we forget that science has its limitations. And those limitations that science has is where you need to take somebody in order to change their minds. And also, may I just add one story that comes from my childhood that throughout my atheist years used to eat away at me, but I used to just ignore it because of the whole pride thing that I told you about. When I was about 4 or 5 years old, I believe, still very young, but this is the one memory that I remember better than anything from my childhood. There was this little white girl who was a neighbor of mine, and we used to play around, we used to play and stuff. But then one day she sat me down with like Legos. Like she had two Lego pieces. She gave me one and she had another. And then she told me, hey, do you want to see something cool? And I was like, okay, cool. So we sat down, crossed our legs and stuff. And then we started going into like this humming position where we put our hands like this on our knees or whatever. Yeah, like that. And then, and then she put the Lego pieces, we sat facing each other and she put the Lego pieces one in front of the other in front of us, right? And she's like, close your eyes and then start chanting. I forgot what the exact words were that we said, but we started chanting and chanting and chanting and chanting for like a while, bro, like for what felt like forever, but it was probably like a few minutes. And then I got impatient and just opened my eyes, while she was still having her eyes closed and stuff, thinking to myself, this is so stupid. This is not going to happen. Like, because I was used to playing with toy cars, and toy cars always had wheels and a battery inside, and I knew all this and stuff, and these Lego pieces, I literally saw them before. They had nothing in them. Then all of a sudden, bro, I look down, and her piece starts to move. Her piece, yes, her piece, a Lego piece that had nothing inside it, started to move. And I remember just looking back, like in shock, like what in the world is happening right now? And I remember just stopping her immediately, saying, wait. And taking a piece and looking underneath again to see, right, is there like a battery or something inside it? It was a Lego piece. I kid you not, nothing was inside that thing. And I saw that Lego piece move without any force exerted on it, making it move. Complete violation of one of Newton's laws. And I was like,
oh my science. You're like, oh my science.
Like, and every time I used to argue with atheists or anybody, that bit of information that was always in the back of my mind, it was always there. It is something that I didn't have doubts in my mind as to whether this thing was real or not. Because I remember I had never forgotten that moment every single day of my life from that day that it took place, bro. Till today that I sit here making this podcast with you. I never forgot it. But like I said, pride would never make me admit that before when I was talking to Christians or people of faith before. Because they would always ask me, Tumi, has nothing ever happened before that would suggest to you that maybe there's something beyond science? Something would just always stop me lying, if I can just be blunt about it. Would stop me from admitting that there is something that has taken place in my life.
Do you know who the father of lies is? Like number 2.
Number 2. He's a liar and the father of all lies. But yeah, so it's pride, guys. It's pride and the not wanting to be held accountable thing as well, because a lot of the stuff that Christianity was telling me, whether I was encountering it in church or through other Christians, made me feel bad. And a lot of those things that made me feel bad, I kind of enjoyed. I really enjoyed that stuff, you know. They would tell me that, "Ew, bruh, illegally downloading music is theft. You're stealing. It's against the commandments that God had given to us." But I really loved that music and I didn't want to pay for it. So like, thank you very much. I'm going to continue to take my music and forget you Christian, trying to tell me that I should feel guilty and that it's wrong to steal or take things that are not mine. You know, so I had a very adversarial relationship with Christians thereafter, because like I didn't want to be held accountable. I didn't want God to be real, in a sense. I didn't want God to be real because I didn't want to think that what I was doing, as long as nobody can see it, it's cool, it's fine. I should be able to get away with it. I didn't like the idea that everybody who does wrong is held accountable at the end of the day. And meantime, while I'm doing all these things that are breaking the law, I'm looking at everybody else like, "Hey, man, look at these guys busy stealing money. Our politicians are stealing money. They're lying and they're doing this. And these guys are just getting away with it, bruh. These guys are just getting away with it, bruh. You can't tell me there's a God out here, guys." I'm just thinking, it's like, looking back, it's funny. Looking back, it's like hilarious. But yeah, I just didn't want God to be real because I wanted to live a life that carnally pleased me, a life that had basically no accountability to it. But then I would unfairly.
But like, why didn't you like want accountability? Like, why was it such a bad thing, or why didn't you want to be held accountable for your actions or whatever? Like, I'm just trying to like understand it, just to further unpack.
Because Tshepi, I felt good doing a lot of these things that are forbidden or immoral in the eyes of God. I loved doing them. I loved illegally downloading music. And to be honest, I kind of still do it today, whether it's music, whether it's movies or television series or whatever. I loved fornication. I loved fornication as well. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, from when I was very young, you know, we as boys had this pressure to like lose our virginity in order to become a man, bruh. You know, and you would always get made fun of if you weren't. And looking back on those type of things, you realize more and more how big a role the devil plays in the lives of even children, bruh. That the average child now who gets exposed to porn, it's like 11 or 10 years old and type of stuff, you know. It's like, looking back now, it's crazy, but I'm just saying back then, you know, you would seek the approval of other people. You would seek the approval of friends. You would seek the approval of this and that, because those were the things that made you feel good. The approval from the scientific community or whatever, because those are things that made you feel good, that were tangible, that you can see and feel and experience. You know, it's my dependency on the world that I could see that made me such a staunch atheist. You know, that made me want to not, to go back to your question, sorry, or why I didn't want the accountabilities, because it felt good doing all the things that weren't right. It's like that one meme that pops up that was like, "Hey guys, why is it that when something is illegal, it tastes something? Like when you steal food from the pan, or like when your mom is still busy cooking or whatever, and like you go into the pot and then you steal it and you eat it." The meme goes, "Why does it feel so good when you do that rather than like when you eat it at the dinner table?" And it's a quote, I think, from a movie where the guy goes, "The secret ingredient is crime. The secret ingredient is crime." So it's like, that secret ingredient is what I enjoy. I won't lie to you. I did enjoy it. You know, I enjoy it. Also, like I said, fornication, sleeping around, whereas adultery and fornication are things strictly prohibited from the Bible. And I really, really loved it. Hey, so I was like, no thanks, bro. I'm not going to subscribe to a doctrine that makes me feel guilty for this stuff. And it never really dawned on me whether morally, as I said before, if somebody would have challenged me on the moral side of things rather than on the scientific, I think it would have converted me much sooner and made me see the truth much sooner, you know. And also, like, as an atheist that was busy fornicating as well, I knew that sex was different for girls than it was for me, bruh. Like for me, it was just a physical action that I do and be done with. But then I always knew that for girls, it meant so much more. And like I knew that I would be hurting them if like I just was in it for just that and I would leave afterwards. But I don't know, like the pressure of being a guy who does not care and is like so and so. I want to go into that bit more detail as well and say, girls, when I tried being a nice guy, because even though I was an atheist, I still did hold all of my Christian principles going around. You know, I still wanted to be nice and kind and caring and gentle. But then all the girls that I wanted, especially the pretty girls, bruh, would love the bad boys. My friends that were the baddest of bad boys who did not care about them, who treated them like crap, who responded after 3 days on text and this and that. Look at these guys. I'd be like, hey, bro, you guys are getting all the pretty girls and all these pretty girls. And I approached them with poetry, with scintillating words, where I would like try and be this ultimate romantic because I grew up listening to R&B and stuff. They would like curve me or friend zone me. I'd be like, oh my God, you're so sweet. And whatever. I'd be like, I guess a change of approach is necessary out here, yo. And the crazy thing is that change of approach worked in order to get the thing that I was after all those years. So it's another big reason why I didn't want that accountability, because the things that I wanted were forbidden, and the things that I wanted in order to do them or to get them, I needed to go against the word of God, you know. So it just added to the whole thing.
Yeah, no, that was really wonderful. Thank you to me for being so transparent and like sharing, you know, your struggles and everything. So then tell me now, as a Christian, is there like accountability in your life, and what does that look like?
Well, the accountability of my life, I believe, is there in that, like, praying, I can't describe, like, can I just talk about praying quickly?
Talk, bruh, talk. It's your show, just for today.
Like, guys, to pray is something, one of those things that is very hard to put into words, but I will try. To go from an atheist that didn't believe in God at all to not believing in anything I couldn't see or feel or taste or touch at all, to now praying. You don't know how steep that jump is, bruh. To go from being adversarial and mean towards Christians and actually rude towards Christians and sometimes saying horrible things about them based on them believing the things that they believe, to now that moment where, snap, I saw that God is real. And now, like, having to get down on your knees and then looking into the sky and then praying for the first time. Guys, I don't think you realize how difficult it is for, like, okay, let me not talk about other people, just for me specifically, how much of how mind blown I was to have gone from the place I was before to now being on my knees, praying to this guy, not even knowing if he can hear me or not, but just having faith that he can and that he does, was one of the most beautiful things that has ever happened to me in my entire life. Because I believe praying for the first time in my life is what humbled me. I was arrogant, I was cocky, I was all the things that you would describe Satan as, if I can be blunt about it. But when I prayed for the first time, it was an act of humility unlike anything I'd ever done before, because I was, for the first time, acknowledging that there was someone greater than
powerful.
me. Someone greater than me out there. And that it's the first time I realized that science, no matter how far it will go, it will always have its limit. And no matter how much you know, because the scientific textbooks, as I saw them every single year, because I was very keen on science, were changing every single time. It would be like one tiny little principle. Yeah, one tiny little principle that science had in place that they thought was real. And then when that tiny little principle would change, it would lead to a cataclysmic event where entire textbooks had to be rewritten. Entire textbook, entire school syllabus had to be changed because of that. And I'd be like, bruh, the word of the Bible the people who wrote the Bible have never felt the need to change it in order to conform to what people are saying nowadays. So it's like,
True.
after all these years now of scientific textbooks having to constantly be rewritten and changed and changed and changed and changed, and then look on the other side, and the holy scriptures that were written in ancient Hebrew and Koine Greek and stuff are staying exactly the same and being presented to people exactly the same way as they were before. Like, it makes you bat your eyes and think, hey, these guys are really confident that what they're saying is true. You know,
Yep.
and yeah, I just wanted to say that, yeah, that pride, letting go of it and actually going down and praying to God was one of the most humble and intimate moments I've ever had in my entire life. And everything from then on just changed dramatically. I also suffered from like a case of depression that my friend Tato from back in the day also suffered from. He rest in
Is this
peace.
Tato that we went to
Yeah,
school with?
yeah,
Oh,
Tato.
Tato.
Yeah,
Oh, man, Tato.
because like all of these tragedies happening in my life, with him being my best friend, you know, back in the day and stuff, losing him really just shook me to the core. And then also like studying and being, yeah, like as an atheist, the more I studied and went to school and tried to do my thing, the more I would always ask myself, is this the point of life? This is the point of life. Am I literally going to wake up every day, brush my teeth, take a shit, eat, take a shit, sleep, or work as somebody's slave, take a shit and sleep for the rest of my life? I just thought to myself, bruh, is this really all that I'm good for? Is this really like what I am? What I will amount to? Is this the meaning of life? That question of the meaning of life drove me insane. It ate away at me on a daily basis to a point where I was just thinking, this life is pointless. But I see now why my friend did what he did. You know, like, this life is meaningless. I'm meaningless and whatever. In the meantime, I just feel like a change of perspective was all that was needed in my life. Like, to just think to myself that, to me, shut down the world, shut down social media, shut down TV, shut down everything else, and what is there left? It's you. And you are special as a result. You have your perspective. You are the star of your own life, if I can put it bluntly. It's like there are movies that are being made out there, but in your life right now, as you live, as you are looking through your eyes, you are the star of your movie. Everybody's the star of their own individual movie. And as a result, we all matter. We all matter in ways that we can never like comprehend, if I can put it bluntly. And to go back to my point of also the unseen world. Can I get into the unseen world? This is something that I wish somebody would have told me before. I found out a few years ago that we can only see, or science even can only explore, less than 0.005% of what we can actually, of what is in actual range of our sight. You know, and even when we use microscopes and look at something to a subatomic level, tiny percentage of what can actually be observed and studied. And when I found that out, that like less than 1% is what science can actually explore out there, it blew my mind in ways that it opened up my mind to more possibilities, you know. Because as an atheist, right, you focus on all these other topics of racism and slavery and the history of the world and how this group of people has mistreated that group of people and stuff like that, right? You focus on all these issues and topics, but you don't realize as well that there may be an underlying tone or an underlying thing that's taking place here. Because the Egyptians, for example, used to tell us that there are beings that helped them develop their technology, you know, that they had back in the day that allowed them to build the pyramids, as an example. And also, by the way, there's evidence that they had UFOs. They were able to build spacecrafts and spaceships back in the day. You know, how advanced a civilization is mathematically dictates how advanced they are scientifically. And if the Egyptians had better mathematics than we do today, I'm telling you that the Egyptians were scientifically superior to us, how we are right now. And the Egyptians wrote down everything that they had in their ancient writings saying, guys, we didn't come up with this on our own. There are beings that exist in the world that we cannot see right now, that gave us all this knowledge that we used to build the pyramids, to do this and that. And these beings wanted worship from us as well. And when you look around the world to ancient China, same story. Ancient India, same story. And you start seeing all these things and they start connecting together, and you're like, huh, that's very interesting stuff that I wish I could have seen and or heard. And that principle that the Egyptians try to tell us of, there is an unseen world where these beings gave us their technology, relates back to what the scriptures were saying, what the Bible was saying as well. I forgot the exact verse, but it says, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, brah. Okay, it doesn't say brah. It says, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but by rulers and principalities, in the world that we cannot see. And I'm just thinking to myself, the Bible has always told me this, bro. Like when I think back as well, like I get so mad because I wish that as an atheist, instead of taking other people's word for it, instead of looking at this documentary called Zeitgeist, that's the main thing that made me rebel from Christianity, by the way. And a lot of atheists still view as true today, without questioning. I challenge any atheist right now, by the way, if you have watched Zeitgeist, and Zeitgeist is the reason you're an atheist now, as I was, go and watch a counter video to Zeitgeist, and you'll find out that almost all of the information that Zeitgeist has given you is incorrect. They try to make it seem as if Jesus was just a plagiarism of ancient Egyptian or Sumerian gods, which is a complete fabrication and a lie. When you actually look at it, there's a YouTube video that even goes into detail about this. When I watched that YouTube video, I was mind blown, and I was like, okay, I can't trust Zeitgeist. Maybe I can't even trust this YouTube video. Let me actually research this stuff for myself. When I researched it for myself, the counter video to Zeitgeist was the correct video. It had everything correctly. It was trying to compare some Greek God that was worshipped as well to Jesus, saying that their birth story is exactly the same. And then you find out that this Greek God wasn't even born a child. He emerged out of a rock. Didn't even have a mother or a parent as it. But then the Zeitgeist video tells us that his birth story and Jesus' birth story are the same. And I'm just thinking to myself, how could it have been so gullible, bruh? And why are there people... Oh, sorry, Tippy. Continue.
No, it's fine. Sorry, you're in a roll.
I was going to say, why are there people who are trying so hard to discredit the story of Jesus with blatant lies? Like if they were like...
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, with such blatant lies. That. Like getting a date wrong or getting confusing a word or something like that. Things, human errors that you can kind of, look at it and say, okay, I kind of understand. But then now to take such blatant lies and try to use that to discredit the story of Jesus, it's like, bro. I started realizing that there are works going on here that are beyond my understanding at that time, that I now know clearly that if they are lies, they're from Satan, and there's no other way to put it.
Definitely. Because my thing is also like, if you're going to be atheist, why don't you guys want to be objective atheists? Why don't you want to investigate both sides? But no, it's like you guys just take a lie, you run with it, and then every Christian you come across, like, let me see how I can poke holes into this argument and this. And actually, now that I think about it, a lot of atheists always used to come to me to like I didn't necessarily go to them, but they always came to me to disprove what I was. And I'm just like, but why? Like, I'm living my life. When I live your life, hey, why must your life consist of always trying to poke holes in what I believe in? So it's almost like it gave me a sense of like, you guys don't actually have like an atheist Bible, but I guess maybe it's the satanic Bible. But maybe you guys are like, now we don't actually want to be Satanists, but we'll be like just somewhere there in between that range, So I just feel like it's like almost like so messed up, that every time you guys always have to like find an atheist to a Christian to like now tell them everything that you're against. And it's like, but why? I mean, if what you're believing in is really true, it leads me to believe that it's actually like more of a spiritual battle. Would you agree that actually to an extent, all this atheism and whatever, it's actually more spiritual than it is scientific and whatever, and all those scientific labels and whatevers are just things that are just plastered on top so that it makes sense to the world or to unsuspecting human beings that could be easily swayed. So would you say that this is actually like there's more to it? Like it's more of like a spiritual thing than it is just what, because I like to, I'm not sure, but I think also with atheists, you guys have like, you can correct me, like ranks, not like ranks, but like atheists that are just like baby atheists and maybe more mature atheists. But it looks like the higher up you go, it's like the closer you get to Lucifer and the more hardened your heart becomes and the more pride there is. But like, so if they're like ranks like that, so I think that with atheism, it's just like trying to like find the unsuspecting or even Christians that don't really understand what they believe in, to then now make them question and begin to doubt God. So would you say that this is actually like more of a spiritual ploy than anything else?
Oh no, it's 100% the spiritual ploy. It's more spiritual than you can ever imagine, especially because of the fact that outside the realm of belief, if you look at the secular world we're slowly moving into living now, everything is seeming to glorify Satan, if I could just put it bluntly. The music that is popular that I grew up listening to, hip hop and rap, used to talk about like killing people and getting revenge and fornication and all these things that were 100% contrary to what the scriptures used to talk about and stuff. And when I look at, when I remember the story of, I believe it was Moses, where the people had created a golden bull and began bowing down and worshiping it. My favorite car at the time is Lamborghini. When I look at it, there's a golden bull as its representation on the logo, and I'm thinking, and you start batting your eyes towards that. And then you start looking at the ancient Egyptians who Moses had set the Hebrews or Israelites free from. And then you see that a lot of their, not a lot, every single bit of their belief system has been incorporated or taken by the Satanists, And when I look at that, Tshepi, I'm just like, I get worried now because I realize now that it is a spiritual battle at the end of the day. There is only two sides to the equation, We like to think that there's a third side or whatever, there are only two sides. And the first side of the equation is that if you believe in God, you'll try and speak his word out there. And then if you're on the Satanist side, you're going to try and get people to rebel from God or to not worship him, worship anything else that is not him. And what atheists don't realize, whether they accept it or not, is that ultimately they're always glorifying the Satanists. They're making themselves their own gods. They're feeding into what the Satanists want. When the Bible says that the road to redemption is a narrow path, or that there's a narrow pathway that leads to heaven, it's not a lie, guys. Like, to get to heaven or to get to God, you only worship God, and that's it. God wins when you worship him. Satan wins when you don't worship God. So if you say you're an atheist, or if you say you're a Satanist, or if you say you worship any other God that is not God himself, the Satanists win in that regard. So it is in satanic people's interest as well to present themselves as atheists. It's in their, it's difficult to tell if an atheist is really an atheist or if it's an undercover Satanist that's coming out to do the works, because essentially there would be no difference between either one. And I used to listen to a lot of atheist commentators as well, because some people, right, are beyond understanding that there is a realm that we cannot see, that there is a whole other world that science cannot cover or tell us anything about. And those people whose minds are closed off to that possibility and can only see the scientific world are far more susceptible to a Satanist convincing them that God is not real than a Christian is, because a Christian can only argue things from God's perspective. Like, we can only use God every time we try and convince somebody that something is real, And
can I just jump in there? I love that you brought in Satanism, because I guess that's literally what I was explaining with the ranks. Because some people, I mean, if somebody were to ask you today, hey, do you want to be a Satanist? It's like, no, But if somebody said, hey, do you want to be an atheist? Like, it has a higher return rate. People might agree to be an atheist rather than agree to be a Satanist, because one looks evil and whatever, which it is. Not that it looks
And creepy.
and
Yeah.
creepy.
One
But
looks
the other
evil,
one
creepy.
looks clean because they just covered it with science and a whole other like lies. You know what I mean? Like things that weren't even proven and that kind of stuff. So could you just tell us, like, what is the difference between atheism and Satanism? And also, why is it that atheists don't see that they are low-key Satanists? They're just baby Satanists, if I can put it like that.
Okay. Let me come at you from two perspectives. One, I want to tell you that the first satanic church that was officially opened in the world, in the United States of America, in 1966 or 1969 by Anton LaVey, is called the Church of Satan, and they refer to themselves as atheistic Satanists.
That's interesting.
Atheistic Satanists.
Okay.
And I've never heard of people calling themselves atheistic Christians, now that I think about it.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting that when the first church that worshipped Satan or the image of Satan had to come out as saying they are atheistic Satanists. And then I remember just thinking to myself that, hey, yo, guys, that's very interesting. Tell me more. And atheistic Satanists essentially say, oh, no, we don't believe that there is actually like a God or Satan out there. But when we listen to the principles of what the Satanists believe in essence, we tend to agree with them more than the principles of the ancient Hebrew Bible, you know. And they try and present it in that way as like a more intellectual version of theistic Satanists, which are the Satanists that say, yes, God is real, Satan is real, and we're on Satan's side. Simple as that. You know, they are more... They try to present themselves as a more sophisticated version of those guys, a more scientific one,
Wow.
or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, the differences between Satanists and atheists is that the one is more aware than the other. The one has more of an open mind. They can see, instead of looking at things like this, an atheist is essentially looking at things like this, and a Satanist is looking at things like this. You know, Satanists, if I can be blunt about it, are as open-minded as Christians are. And I'm talking theistic ones. They're as open-minded in terms of they know about the spiritual realm, they know about God, they know about Satan and stuff like that. It's just they've made a choice to go onto the dark side, whereas Christians have made their choice to go onto the side of light. And an atheist is essentially somebody who's fighting in a small little bubble there and not able to see the world from a whole. They're looking at the world basically from like blinders, from a blinder's perspective. And I tell you now that it's a very dangerous thing. We need to stop focusing on the scientific part of things, because the scientific part doesn't disprove the Bible, it proves it. As more time has gone by, I, as an atheist, used to say, give science more time, we will disprove the Bible. Another big reason I came back to the faith is the more time went by, the more the Bible was getting proved by science. I mean, we're in 2020 now with this corona thing, and the best advice medical people can give us are things that were written in the book of Leviticus, literally things that were written in the book of Leviticus thousands of years ago in the Bible. I'm just like, guys,
you're behind.
I'm done now.
You guys are behind.
I'm done now. You're telling me we've had thousands of years to catch up science. And also, by the way, did you know that believing in a flat earth was actually the earliest scientific belief? Because there was a Bible scripture from Job that said that pointed to the earth being round and suspended on nothingness. And it was the earliest scientists that actually came out and said, but come on, look, everything falls when it's on a flat surface and goes over the edge. So what you're saying is dumb. It doesn't make sense, bruh. You know, I believe that the science argument right now is in the Christian field. Like, we cannot go there. Christians should not be trying to argue it from the scientific perspective. I believe we would save far more time if we attack this from a spiritual one, as you have said. Because making somebody spiritually dead is the way that the Satanists are winning right now. The Satanists are keeping all of us spiritually dead and keeping us in the world that we can see more and more.
Yeah.
You know, they're hooking us with technology, they're hooking us with the media, they're hooking us with pornography, they're hooking us with gambling, they're hooking us with money and fame and Instagram, and all this stuff, you know, instead of like trying to
Just removing God out of it. No, I totally get you. They're trying to move
Yeah.
God out of it, and so that everything becomes metaphysical, so you don't even reach beyond to actually see, like, spiritual. But tell me about the atheist community. Is there love in there? Like, is it just every man for himself, and we're just fighting? Like, is it like a thing where you guys get together and you guys love each other like we do as Christians? Or just every man for himself, and it doesn't
Well,
even matter as long as science.
well, well. In the atheist community, we tended to always like look at the world as a survival of the fittest type situation. The atheists, anyways, who are not trying to cherry pick what they liked from Christianity and say, oh yeah, I can also hold these viewpoints, all the things that they like from Christianity and hold them. The ones who truly were trying to say, hey, yo, we don't believe in a God, we don't believe in a Satan, we don't believe in anything that existing. We look at nature. And in nature, what is the rule? What is the law? It is survival of the fittest. The lion beats the hyenas beat or eat the other prey or whatever. It is basically every man for himself, if you can put it that bluntly. If you were a true atheist, if I can put it bluntly, if you were a true atheist, you didn't cherry pick things from the Bible or cherry pick things from Satanism or whatever. You just looked at nature as your guide as to how human beings should survive or live.
Okay.
It was a survival of the fittest type situation. If you die, it is because you were weak or you were poor or you were conquered in a previous
like that.
generation, and that's why your generation now is poor. And love, I don't want to lie, was something that I was starting to view as made up. Love was a stupid human emotion that was made up in order to control us and make us weak.
Your mom, your aunt, family, girlfriend.
You just looked at them essentially as like, I don't know. When you're an atheist, it's like, how do you say what is love, bruh? Love is something that's intangible.
So you don't touch
as an atheist, yeah, like I find it hard to put it into words now that like I'm a Christian.
Do atheists need love?
It's like,
do they want love? Do they need love? Is it like deep down inside?
I think they want it. I think they want it. They need it deep down. Yes.
Loved.
Yes. Yes. Because like I said before, what drove me insane or drove me mad was the fact that question of what is the meaning of life, and thinking to myself that this is all that I am. I am something to be used by other people. I'm to be used as a child, and then when I've grown up, I'm to be used as an employee who's going to be paid peanuts compared to people who were born into much more wealthy or privileged families and so forth. I was looking for a kind of validation that I could not achieve from it's very difficult to think about it now. Wow, Tebi, this is actually working. You're forcing me to like think back on.
Don't go back. Only think back, but don't go back.
No, I'm not gonna go back.
Okay.
I'm thinking back. Now.
We're just trying to help others.
Because when I'm thinking back now, Tepi, when I converted, I basically just left my whole life before as an atheist behind me. I went from being a rude atheist who I would even say hated Christians, because I also saw a lot of hypocrisy in the Christian community, and I'd always throw it back in their faces and stuff like that, But
can I say something? Is it hypocrisy if God is still working out your sin nature? Because remember, with us as a Christian, it's still also like a journey. The same way you guys have to find your theories and textbooks and whatever. The same way with us, we also have to unlearn certain things. So is that hypocrisy, or are you just watching a Christian that's on their way to maturity and growth?
That's on their way to maturity. Yes, we're just watching that, and it was a very narrow-minded way of looking at things, if I'm going to be blunt as well. Because Christians were not going around saying that they're better than everybody, the Christians I was encountering. They were just trying to lead us off of a destructive path. They wouldn't say, hey, bro, I don't sin and stuff like that. And when you'd see them sin, you'd say, ha, hypocrite. Christians were just people who were on a journey to make the world a better place than it is now by contributing less destructive things to the world that we live in now.
Establishing God's kingdom.
I believe that is a very, and it's like when I got converted, because like My conversion took place as a result of like 2 days of no sleep and just researching constantly, going down the deepest rabbit hole that I could to eventually finding out God is real, Jesus is real. And from that moment on, I left behind my pride. I left behind everything that I used to think about before, and I literally became what I would say a new person. And so now, when you're asking me these questions and I'm having to look back, it's almost like I don't even know who I was, bruh. Like, what did I actually believe, bruh? Like,
The textbook kept changing. When you were so atheist, you were on
yeah,
revision 5. Now they're on revision like
I was on
25.
revision. Yeah. It's
But
like
how did that make you
people.
as an atheist though? Like, wasn't it weird? Because now you believe something and now you've told your friends about it. Now they discover something. Now they have to go back and change all the textbooks, but you've already told people this. So are you like, remember that thing that I said that other week? Like, how did that even work? Because it's like there's no consistency, there's no truth because things are just changing and being disproved.
Oh, I will bluntly put it down to ignorance, hey? And maybe human nature a little bit, because it's like we tend sometimes to, I don't know, it's like that question of why do you go back to or rely on something that is unreliable? Like, it goes back to maybe that thing I was telling you about of the secret ingredient is crime.
Yeah.
It seems like it's human nature to go to something that is flawed. Like that flaw in science that existed where the textbooks needed constant changing around. I guess it was a way that we looked at ourselves as well as, hey, bro, I am imperfect. I'm always learning. So if science is always learning, it is a more relatable thing if I can, it's a more relatable thing if I can put it like that. It was more relatable to look at science, even despite its changes, its flaws, and it getting things wrong. It was more relatable to look at that rather than to look at the perfect image of Jesus. And to look at the perfect image of Jesus, who isn't like me, who didn't sin like me, he didn't steal things that didn't belong to him like me, he didn't lie like me, he didn't fornicate like me, he was perfect. It's kind of insecure. Yes, it kind of goes back to that thing, human nature, as I said before, of looking at Jesus and then not being able to relate to him in terms of you don't feel like he understands the struggle that I go through, and also, haters. Yes, being an atheist is also like being a hater. It's like looking at somebody who's successful or somebody who's able to do something you're not able to, and then disliking him as a result or hoping to see him fall as a result. When we look at celebrities or when we look at our enemies succeeding out there and getting their cash and hoping, I hope that guy like falls from living in his 10-bedroom mansion to living in a shack one day. Like that human nature that we like to embrace of revenge and not wanting to see other people succeed and imperfection and so forth. Like, I believe that made atheism more appealing and made us more able to understand that viewpoint than looking at Christianity and looking at the image of Christ and looking at the image of God. And may I just add something else, bruh? I hate when people try to, especially like atheists sometimes that look at this, and some Christians that look at Jesus and look at the Old Testament and think that they are incompatible, or say, hey, bruh, Jesus, God really calmed down from Old Testament God. Hey? And I'm just like, nah, bruh, like that's the same God. You guys have just been fed an image about God that is taken out of context a lot of the times. We are always fed the image of God who punishes us for our sins. We're always fed Sodom and Gomorrah. We are almost fed the image of when in Daniel's times Babylon came in to take over Jerusalem because God had given them into the hand of the Babylonians for not repenting of their sins and stuff like that. We always look at the image of God when he is in I'm punishing you for your sins mode, rather than looking at the patience that God has had for us, sometimes for hundreds and thousands of years. We overlook God forgiving Adam and Eve for their sins and not wiping them off of the face of the earth. We forget God looking at Cain killing his brother and forgiving him for that. We forget when Abraham was speaking to God about the judgment of Sodom and Gomorrah, right? and how God did not want to kill innocents or kill an innocent life that would have been in Sodom and Gomorrah. Abraham asking, God, what if there were 50 innocent people in that entire city of hundreds or thousands or whatever? What if there were 50 innocent people? Would you spare the city? God said he would spare the city. Abraham went down to a lower number.
Yeah.
God said he would spare the city. He went to a lower number. It's like, when we look at it today, as an atheist, is to look at America and say, hey, bro, America has things it does wrong, but it has things it does right as well. So if America goes into a city that it's at war with and it bombs the hell out of it and it bombs innocent people in it, hey, they're casualties of war, bruh. That's how I used to look at it casually and stuff. But then I would forget that America, you're busy out here claiming you're a Christian country, a Christian nation, and your president is claiming to be a Christian as well. And here he is exercising a level of action or morality that's not consistent to what God would have done. God would have not bombed this city, including those innocents who would have died. He said, no, if there's an innocent in an entire populace out there, I will not wipe out that city. I will not carry out such judgment, So we've been fed a false image of God that his nature is changing. God's nature is not changing, guys. The Old Testament God is the New Testament God. Jesus, when he came, forgiving people for the sins that he had as well, was doing the exact same thing that is inconsistent with what God did in the Garden of Eden with Cain, with the city of Sodom and Gomorrah. Like,
everybody.
everything. We've been fed this false image of God, guys, and I just feel like we're not thinking independently. These people who claim they're woke as well, bruh. These people who claim they're woke, and that if you're a Christian or you have a belief system about you, you're the one who's being led into thinking a certain type of way. I look back now and I'm like, you are the one who's actually being fed a false image of what God is, and everything that you have now is just a copy-pasted viewpoint of somebody else. So like, yeah, that's another huge problem that I've had. I've always felt, and I'm sorry to say this out loud, I've always felt that sometimes a lot of the smart people were stacked on Satan's side, were stacked as either atheists or Satanists or from any other type of religion or belief system. And sometimes I just felt that Christians did not have proper people going out to preach the word, which is why sometimes I'm hesitant. I used to be hesitant to go out to people and try to preach to them because I was scared that I would misrepresent God or his word in the same way people had represented God to me when I was an atheist, and it didn't convert me sooner,
But remember,
so it's like,
the best way is always to just bring people to Jesus by just having them read the Bible for themselves. So
yes, but people don't want to.
No, but they have
We're
to.
lazy.
They have to.
They have to. No, they have to. But I'm just saying that they're lazy, Tshepi. We're lazy, Tshepi. We need a spark. I believe we all need a spark, bro. Because I was also lazy. I'd never read the Bible before, and I criticized it more than anyone ever.
So basically, atheists are lying.
We are.
Huh. So you guys are lying. This whole thing is it's built on lies. And it makes sense though, because even some of the stuff that you guys say, it's really like not consistent in the Bible. So I was just always wondering, where did you get that from?
Where did you get that from? Good question. Good question.
I don't know where you drew that, or you just took one thing that happened in the Bible and
Zeitgeist and fake news. Zeitgeist and fake news.
Hey, yeah, no, Timeno, thank you so much for your time. That was like really amazing. Thank you for sharing your testimony. Thank you for being open. Do you have any closing remarks to the atheists? Let's just say that's watching out there or that's listen, and I don't know. Just gonna give you the floor. You can just wrap up. And yeah, thank you, man. That was amazing.
If I can wrap up for atheists out there, I would, or anyone actually out there, atheist, Christian, or other faith-wise, I would just like to firstly say, sorry if sometimes us as Christians have come across as judgmental or unloving in the way that we approach speaking to y'all. At the end of the day, we are also only humans, and our passion in trying to show you a truth that is obvious to us sometimes comes across as rude and stuff. And the last thing I would like to say is, guys, read things for yourself. Go out, read things, research things for yourself, and come to the truth yourself. Don't listen to others or allow other people to speak into your head and dictate to you how you see the world. In fact, take my word as false right now and go and Google this stuff, research this stuff from reliable sources yourself. And yeah, that's my closing remark. And God bless you and be with you all.
Yeah, I just want to add, guys, you really need to go to the Word of God. Like, it'll save you the research, all the research. But you can't take Dumi's route. Maybe you're like a scientist out there and whatever. You know, like, you have to go to Christ. You have to come to the truth, the knowledge of the truth. You know what I'm saying? That's what God is there to do. God loves us all. God loves, I mean, atheist or not, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't even change God. God is not like Satan. Satan only loves you if you're on his, well, he can't even love, but loves you only when you're on his side. But the minute you turn around, it's like he completely hates you. And that's why it's usually very difficult for Satanists to leave that brotherhood and that cult and whatever. So I just want to encourage you guys to just like come to God. God is a loving Father. And the cool thing about God is that you can either choose to come or choose to go. But either way, he's still there. He still loves you. He'll forever love you. And he's consistent. I think also atheists, like you guys, from what we've been discussing, you guys need that consistency. And that consistency you're looking for really can be found in God, because he's immutable. He's unchangeable. He's been the same centuries after centuries after centuries. So I'd really just encourage you, like, just find a Bible, check it out, just Google it, like, go through those pages, you know, come to the conclusion yourself. Maybe God was misrepresented to you or whatever. And yeah, and I also just want to encourage you guys, like, don't go to the wrong path, you know, trying to seek for truth, but not truth is where the Bible is. So what tends to happen is people, they like, nah, I don't know what to believe, so I'm gonna be atheist. And some people are confessing atheism of their life when they don't really understand what it's all about, and not even understanding that it's actually a ploy from the demonic realm and the demonic world to, like, you know, to deceive you. Because the minute, and then it's just a facade of, it's like about science and facts. It's not even that, because the Bible itself also talks about science and facts. Like, literally everything you're looking for. Read the book of Job. You read about the constellations and the stars, and everything is in there. I promise you guys. I promise you. It's not just a book on like do this, do's and don'ts. Like, there's more to the Bible that touches on science, relationships, everything.
And prophecy. The most important for me being prophecy, guys, that we are seeing unfold before our eyes today.
Yes. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. May this bless you. Send this to your atheist friend, whoever needs to hear it. Yeah, let's bring more people to God. Let's connect people to Jesus. Like, we are not the way. Jesus is the way, and we're pointing you to the way. So if you're confused, then if instead of wasting that time and energy to go checking science journals or whatever, check the Bible journal, and then you'll get to the truth much faster than you need to. And pray, you know, like, ask God to open your eyes, your spiritual eyes and ears, so that you can see these things, you know. So, because sometimes we understand we're not in the business of trying to convince people, but it's God himself who needs to remove the scale so you can see the truth. But yeah, love and light, guys. Be blessed. God bless you all. And yeah, bye.
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 You've been listening to The Tshepishow, the #1 podcast for people who want to get their ish together and take their life to the next level. Loved this episode? Head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. You can also share your thoughts and leave a voice message. Thank you. Until next Sunday.